Hello and welcome to Elena Meets the Author. This podcast explores how authors create a world that we can escape into. Join me as we demystify the magic that keeps us turning the page. Hello and welcome to Elena Meets the Author. I'm your host, Elena Bose. This week, I will be speaking to Virginia Evans, the author of The Correspondent. This book was exactly the book that I wanted to read, even though I didn't know it. It's an epistolary novel. In other words, the novel contains only letters written from one person to another. I have to admit, I'd never read one before, and I wasn't sure it was going to work for me. Too dry, I thought. Too much of one style. How wrong I was. Letter writing is a wonderful vehicle to get to really know a character. It's so honest and personal and funny. And this story has many lovable characters. The main one being the firecracker of a protagonist, 73-year-old Sybil Van Antwerp. Sybil, who can be both infuriating and charming, but never dull, writes very frank letters to friends, family, strangers she has come across one way or another, as well as authors whose work she admires, including Joan Didion and Kazuo Ishiguro. Sybil receives many letters back, which are equally telling. The book takes place over a decade between 2012 and 2022. Sybil, a mother, grandmother, divorcee, retiree, lives alone in a house on the Severn River in Annapolis, Maryland. She expects to be coasting through the so-called winter season of her life, writing letters, tending to her garden, and reading novels. When all of a sudden, letters from a person from her past force the stubborn Sybil to confront secrets that she has tried to long bury. Sybil will not be coasting through the winter season. Things start to fall apart and come together in surprising ways. This touching, funny, at times very sad, while also heartwarming novel shows that change is possible at any age. This book is about the mistakes we as humans invariably make and how we deal with them in the long term. Virginia, I'm so glad you agreed to be on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Elena.
It's a great, original, touching, fantastic book. I loved it. I've told so many people to read it. So anyway, I've been waiting to do this interview.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Which came first to you, the idea of writing an epistolary novel or the fabulously outspoken protagonist, Sybil Van Antwerp?
That's a great question. For me, the vehicle of the letters was the first thing that I started with. I had read 84 Charing Cross Road, which I know is a beloved epistolary classic. That's a very different book than my book, but I had read that book with my book club during the beginning of COVID. And when I read that book, I had such a wonderful experience of reading. It was sort of exactly what I wanted to read at the time. It felt like a kind of book, and other epistolary novels I've read feel this way too. There's something about it that is literary and smart, but there's also something very digestible or approachable about that format. I think because the letters are short and there's often a page break, it feels like an easier entree to digest, kind of, rather than, kind of the regular style of a novel. And so I had felt that way when I read 84 Charing Cross Road. And so usually when I'm starting to write a new novel, I will just kind of start with what I want to be reading. And I think I wanted to be reading more of this book that Helene Hanff had written, and it was so short and I wanted it longer. So I thought, okay, I think I want to try to write a book in letters because of the enjoyment that I had reading it. And then I think probably what happened is it was a matter of asking myself, what kind of a person would write enough letters to become enough for a story? And what kind of a person would have been kind of narrating their whole life in this form? And Sybil, the main person in the story, sort of arrived to me. She arrived and it was clear who she was in my mind. I could hear her voice and I began, and that's really how it got going.
You mentioned something that I really liked, exactly what you said. There would be long letters And then you'd have the short ones when she was writing to the kindred or the garden club. They would be very brief and succinct, and she was annoyed. So you had a nice variation that, and you could close the book at night having finished a letter.
Yes.
So it's very digestible and literary, because she mentions lots of the books are mentioned throughout too, which I loved. So before writing this novel, you got a master's of philosophy in creative writing at Trinity College, Dublin. And one of your tutors was the acclaimed author, Claire Keegan. Can you tell us a few top tips from Claire about writing fiction? And how did you think about those top tips when you were writing The Correspondent?
Oh, Elena, what a great question. I'm hoping people will ask me, tell me what you learned from Claire, because I learned so much from her. I would like to say that Claire is so generous of spirit when she's teaching. I've said this in other interviews too, but I really think about how when she taught us what she knew about writing, her whole mentality about it was a generosity of spirit, a sort of way she was saying, here's everything I know. Here's all of my knowledge and wisdom about writing, and you can have it. You can have everything I have. She wasn't stingy.
Wasn't threatened.
No, she wasn't. She just was so generous with all of her understanding of fiction.
Yeah.
And a couple of things, I do kind of feel like Claire lives a little behind my left shoulder when I'm writing now. A couple of things that stand out. She would say that when you're creating a world of fiction, you are creating this whole universe that's sort of inside of a bubble, like a soap bubble or something. And in this whole world, I don't know that she used that exact phraseology, but you create this world inside of a bubble. And when your reader comes into the bubble through the text, if you're the short story or the novel or whatever it is, you are bringing them inside of this world. And if there's ever a moment where the reader sits back from the text and says, I don't believe you, you have lost. You've lost it. You've lost the story. The story no longer stands, she would say. And she takes writing fiction very seriously, as do I. But I have always thought about that ever since learning from her. I've thought about that when I write scenes or when I write dialogue or any part of a story. I always think, thinking about my reader, do you believe that? Do you believe what's happening? Would this character do this? Do you believe me? Even if it's a wild thing that happens, even if it's something very dramatic, it still has to be something that the reader believes. And so whenever I'm revising or writing, I'm thinking, do you believe me? Do you believe me? Do you believe me? And so that has been helpful for me. She also that when you enter a story as the writer, you are making an incision in time, in the timeline of this world. And you're deciding, we're starting here at this moment. John McGahern, I believe, has this famous quote that is, every good story starts with a person in a place. And Claire says, you have to decide why you're making the incision in the timeline there and then. And if that might not be the best place to begin. And so that is helpful for me also. That's more of a thing I consider at the beginning, or deciding what the beginning of a story will be. But this idea of what's the reason for this incision in the timeline, that's really helpful. One more thing I'll share, I'll give two more brief. She says, if you don't know what to do next when you're writing, you follow the feet. You follow your person that you're writing about's feet. Where do their feet go? You can always follow them where they go. Like, I think what she was trying to teach us was that it can't just be this cerebral thing. It needs to be tactile and physical. People go places, people, follow their physical body. And then the thing probably I think about the most that she would say, you can see it's like, I have a million things I could say, but she says, whatever you put into the story from the beginning, any detail, any person, any factor, anything that's at the beginning has to be braided in to the end as well. And so you can't put things in and then they never bear on the story in the long run. And so she if you get to the end of the story and something that you put into the story at the beginning doesn't bear on the end, get it out. Trim
Right.
it. So
I noticed in your first few pages, you mention a lot of stuff that's going to come out later. You have so many mini plots in your story, all subsumed under one plot, which is Sybil's long-held grief for things that happened a long time ago. Do you include all these various strands during your first draft?
I don't know that I included every one of them. What I was doing when I was writing the story was trying to tell a complete picture of a complete life. And the picture was the life of Sybil. But, we don't live in a vacuum. And so part of understanding who Sybil was having these people around her to hold up a mirror and say, you see when she interacts with certain people, certain sides of her and certain ways that she is. But then with other people, she's very different. She shows a different side. And so all of these other people in the story show back, kind of shine the light back on Sybil and say, this is who she is. This is who she is. And so probably I don't know that was what I was intending to do necessarily, but I think what I was always intending to do was to write a good story that I would want to read. People ask me a lot of times, what was the statement you were making on grief or on family, on motherhood? And I always think I wasn't trying to make any statements. I wasn't, there wasn't like an ulterior motive. I just always want to tell a good story, a story that you want to keep turning the pages. And so as I revised, I probably added or took people away. If I felt in the story there wasn't some part of it that we needed, or there was redundancy or, any of that, I do think some people were added. I can think of a couple people in the story that I kind of added later. But I think what ended up happening was I was creating this, kind of recklessly creating this universe. And it was very fun. I could add a character anywhere, anytime that I wanted to. And that was fun. I really enjoyed that.
Fun.
I enjoyed like all the side stories and how you cared. I cared about these other people that aren't the principal story, but, like the customer service agent, you kind of care what happens to him, or, or her best friend, Rosalie, you care what's going on with her husband.
And the way you just dropped in the garden club, the head of English at the local university. I was going to ask you, the Texan suitor. I was like, now, why did you bring him? And I was wondering, was it as a counterpoint to her next door neighbor, Theodore, who I loved? Or he was quite a bit of a chauvinist at the beginning. And then she just kind of whips him into shape and he's beguiled by her. So was it that because she had worked during a time, I guess was it the 70s, when women rarely, they were secretaries. She had a big career. That was a character that he came out of left field. I believed it. But I was wondering, when did he come into the story?
He kind of came in early. And again, that's probably one of those things where, I was sort of writing this story and I was wanting to read a book. So then therefore I was wanting to write a book where the life of someone I wanted, especially in COVID, but now always, I want redemption. I want things to get better. I want to see that there's a chance for something to go from bad to good. I mean, in life, I think that's what we want as humans. And obviously not every story can be redemptive. And this story is not fully happy. It's not, it has a lot of sadness in it. But I think, what I was wanting was to have this woman who starts off in a certain way, sort of have her life get open like a tulip or something, to sort of have this whole thing sort of start to open up and expand instead of to shrink in on itself, which is what you expect as a reader and what she expects of her own life. And so, I just think with Mick Watts from Texas, I just thought some man would think she was a great catch. She's smart. She has a waterfront property. She had a great career. He's a catch. And so I just thought somebody would come after her.
So I love it. No, it was great. Yeah, her life really, that's such a perfect way of saying it. It really opened up like a flower, those 10 years. How did you pick those 10 years, 2012 to 22?
Mm. I wanted to write something modern. I have typically, when I've written in the past, shied away from modern times because I have never wanted to deal with cell phones in fiction.
Mm.
I just think cell phones are the plot killer. I think it's, there's no mystery anymore. There's no like wondering where someone is or getting lost or being not reachable. I mean, it feels like the only modern stories is if somebody goes to a hiking trip in the Scottish Highlands and
Oh,
there's no cell service or something.
right, right,
Why? But so I have shied away from modern times in writing fiction. And yet, this is the world I live in, and this is
right.
my time in my current moment. And so I thought I would like to try something modern. It does feel counterintuitive to have a book in letters, which feels sort of antiquated, to have that be set in modern times. I thought that was kind of a fun juxtaposition of things. And I knew I wanted to write the story in a world that I knew, in a world that I was familiar with. I grew up in that area of Maryland. A lot of the aspects of the story are very sort of normal to me. The
Right.
places, time, and, kind of that was part of it. And also, without giving anything away, the story ends. It ends at an ending point, and I knew where I wanted it to end. And so I was kind of writing towards that. And
Uh-huh.
so it felt like I knew kind of what years I wanted to straddle with with the events of the story, I guess.
Right. Okay. But it was still very believable because she was an older woman. So letter writing would have made sense to her.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't question it at all. But, she had, I've forgotten the name of Harry. So who was great on the computer. So she had some assistance when she needed it.
Yeah.
So she was in the modern world,
Yes.
but she was an old-fashioned sort, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes.
Now,
And it's interesting. So many people now reach out to me. People write to me letters and emails, and I get a lot of feedback from readers now. And so many people are women in their 70s who write letters. And they say, I can't believe you wrote this book. I don't see myself in fiction. I don't see myself in movies, but I see myself in this. And there was one piece of feedback I got from someone that said, the combination of someone who's that age with those kind of idealisms and those habits that are sort of, we would maybe call old-fashioned, put together with a woman who's very intelligent, very engaged with the world, very full of knowledge and understanding and history. So many women have said, this person is me, but this person is not in fiction. I don't
right.
find this in fiction anymore. And especially not as the main principal person in the story. And so that's been really neat to hear feedback. I actually went to a book club last night in person with a group of about a dozen women who are in their 70s and 80s. And I had the best time. And all of the way that their feedback was, I mean, Sybil would have fit right in. It was it was the most fun I've had yet with this whole book
Wow.
journey. They were so enthusiastic about how what is in the book is real and feels true to them and to their friends. And it was neat.
And hopeful.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me. So I'm 63. And so when I read about this at 73, I'm like, wow, she kind of had a great life that blossomed. There,
Yeah.
you don't all shrivel up. You can have great interactions with all, but she was also very open to interactions, like with is it Basant?
Yeah. Besam.
Besam. She immediately apologized. And then that's when she was giving Harry lessons on how you write a letter, she said, you always have to answer the questions asked and then ask some more to continue the relationship. So she was a really good listener.
Yeah.
She made the world bigger for her because of her personality. So it was also a good lesson on how to keep your world open, I think. And he became a friend, but Basam. That was quite funny. Okay. Without giving things away, Sybil writes a series of letters that she never sends. So there was an element of mystery. Was that tricky to maintain throughout the book? I only figured it out at the end because I just missed it.
Well, I feel most people say they didn't know who she was writing to until the
Right.
end, which is great. Some people say they knew. In some ways, that kind of continuing letter that she keeps
Yeah.
returning to is the mast of the ship, or it's the skeleton, is the
Yeah.
spine. Maybe it's the spine of the skeleton, and all the other things in her life sort of hinge on this kind of like, I don't know, the truth in the letters that are written, ongoing letter. And, I think in some ways, going back to that letter that she's writing felt the easiest to write and to kind of keep up with, because I knew what's going on in her, because I get to be God. I get to create her life and
Right.
her
Yeah.
life and stuff, which is really part of the fun of writing fiction. But I knew what was going on inside of her. Maybe not the first time I wrote it, but as I revised and got to know her more and sorted through what's going on with her. And so that ongoing letter, it feels like the most authentic version of her, and her kind of best, not her best, but her most truthful letter. And so in that way, it kind of kept my eyes on the horizon of what she's really thinking, what she's really,
Ah,
and then the way she articulates herself to other people stray from that. She tries to
yeah.
seem more upbeat, or she tries to seem more severe, or she tries to
Yeah.
seem more angry for different people. But the mainstay of the story of what she feels is in that main letter, I think.
Oh, wow. I like that. Kept her eyes on the horizon. That's good. So she writes to several famous authors to tell them what she thinks of her latest books. She also writes to George Lucas, whose Star Wars film she confesses to him she has never seen, but she needs a favor from George. So clearly, you think letter writing is very special. What is its magic, and do you think it's a lost art?
Hmm. You really hit the nail on the head that it's magic. I
Mm.
just don't think there's that many forms of magic left that we have, especially because of the way, you know, the mystery, humankind's history, been mysterious. Like other cultures, other horizons, other countries have felt, far away, mysterious. But now we can travel. You can get an economy ticket anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, waiting on information about someone, waiting to hear news of something wonderful or something awful is immediately in your hand through your phone. There are very few places where we have to wait and have our waiting rewarded with something interesting or magnificent or wonderful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
my own life right now, like I'm checking these bestseller lists to see if we've made it on the list. Well, I can
Yeah.
just look on my computer. I don't have to wait to see the newspaper. I can check it. I can refresh, and then it's there. And it just
You can
takes
watch any movie you want right now.
any movie. You can access anyone, and especially with social media, you can see
Yeah.
inside people's houses. You can see
Yeah, you're
these
right.
children, So to me, letter writing is something magic. And I have talked to so many people, and don't you agree? And I feel if you receive a letter, if
Oh,
I go to the mailbox
yeah.
today and there is a letter to me, it feels like something that is not something you can feel in many other ways anymore.
Yeah.
Feels like a secret or a treasure or something that's not traceable or trackable, and it's personal. And I think I have framed letters on the wall in my home from people that, it's an artifact. It's
Yeah.
a treasure. It's a piece of something physical that you can hold. And there's in the book, I mean, the book really speaks to this in a lot of ways, but to me, it speaks to it mostly where this doesn't give anything away. But Sybil has this letter that her mother wrote when she gave her up for adoption. And this is the thing she cares about, this
Yeah.
object. She cares more about this physical object than any other physical object that she has. I mean, she treasures it. She has treasured it since she was a child. And I just think you're right what you said. It's magic. It's just magic. It's like a child being born. You just can't replicate that. I don't know. There's just a few things in this world that are still magical, and I think a letter is one of them.
You're so right, because I was thinking when I was in high school and college, I had a long distance boyfriend, and his letters, you'd have to wait to get them. And they were super special. And then I was also thinking, this was, I guess, all in the 80s. My husband now, he used to travel and he wouldn't see his parents for like 6 months, and he would send a telegram maybe every week or so. They didn't know where he was. I mean,
Wow.
they knew he was traveling around India, but they didn't know exactly where he was.
Wow.
That's what people did then. You just didn't talk to people. You didn't have them on your phone. Like my daughter knows, because she's got me on Find My Friends. She knows where I am every minute. Mom, you haven't left yet. Don't lie. Right? So there's no mystery. There's just, everything's so easy.
It's so easy now. My grandfather's 100 years old, and we were talking about how he was on a ship in the Panama Canal when World War II was over. He was on his way to serve in the Japanese theater, and then the war ended and he was on this ship.
Wow.
And he was telling us this story about what was happening, on this ship. And he says the name of the ship. And we were just sitting there kind of chatting, and he says the name of the ship. And my son, who's 12, picks up my phone, and then he hands my granddaddy, the phone, and it's a picture of the ship he was on.
Oh, wow.
And my grandfather's face, it just went almost like white. And he said, I'd never seen the ship since I got off of it when I was 20 years old.
Oh, no.
And it's such a good picture of this. Like, this has been something that is lost in his memory. It's only his. And it's this sacred kind of thing. And then my son can just look, it's on Google.
Yeah.
I mean, in that way, it's beautiful. But there is something about what we have access to now that takes away some of the magic of things.
Yeah. Wow. Very good. Okay. It's clear that you were a reader. Not only does Sybil write to beloved authors, but she and her oldest friend, Rosalie, always sign off their letters, unless they're fighting, mentioning what book they're currently reading. So is there a theme in what you like to read? Type of book do you like? I'm guessing you don't like science fiction. It's the George Lucas thing.
No, I actually really do. And I love Star Wars movies. Just funny. But I read pretty widely, I would say. I really love I tend to read old backlist kind of things, partly because I like to hold a paperback more than a hardback, but I like a lot. I like a lot of different things. I can't really point to anything that I would say I wouldn't read that. I would pretty much I would say I would read most things. And the books that are mentioned in the Correspondent primarily are books that I have loved. And that was just a fun way that I could throw in my own preferences into the story.
So Agatha Christie, Murder on Orient Express, you loved.
Loved.
Yeah. I was like, did she love this one?
I did love it. And I've read it, I think I've read it twice, maybe 3 times. I love the classics. I love, I like some science fiction. I wouldn't say I love fantasy, but I have read some that I've enjoyed. Some older fantasy I've loved.
What if you don't like it? Do you read a book through, or do you have a certain point where you're like, okay, I don't need to read anymore?
I'm a big quitter. Quitter. If I'm not into it, I'll give it a good 100 pages, usually. But if I don't like it, I mean, and I'm a book buyer because I feel like this is my industry, so I need to support. Well, my husband's like, you don't need to buy any more books. But even if I buy it, I feel like I'll give it away.
Okay. So what advice would you give to authors who are struggling to get published? Because I believe you had a hard time with your book before.
Yes. Well, this is the 9th novel I've written, and none of the other ones made it through to the end.
Oh, wow.
I started writing my first novel when I was 19, and I am 39. So 20 years.
Perseverance.
Yeah. Perseverance or courage or madness or insanity.
Love of writing.
Yeah, love of writing, inability to walk away. So the obvious answer is, I want to say, just keep going, just keep going. But I'm saying that from the other side. And I want to say I recognize that I'm saying that from the other side. And I, for 20 years, was the person that heard people say that and said, you can only say that because you're on the other side. I will say, you'll never know if you can do it if you stop trying. You'll never know. I do think if I'm giving encouragement, I think what I would most want to say is that if you feel like it's a thing that's chasing you, writing fiction or writing is a thing that's not that you're trying to do, but that it is a thing that is chasing you, I think that means you're a writer and you'll just have to keep going, even if it's grueling and even if you get a lot of rejections. I mean, I have been rejected thousands of times by agents, publishers, periodicals, magazines, thousands. So, you get a really thick skin.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to.
And you learn what's important. Let me tell you, it's not the writing. It's my family and
Right. Did you have agents who were encouraging even if they didn't take it?
I did. Yeah, there were a few people along the way who were generous to me and kind. And I always felt that there were these divine moments along the way when I was about ready to say, I cannot do this. I cannot do this anymore. Somebody would say something to me in the moment that I was about to be done and say, I think you really do have what it takes. I think you're really good at this. I think you can do it. You shouldn't quit. Don't quit, And I think those lily pads of encouragement got me across the ocean, lily pad to lily pad. And now I can look back on 20 years and the last year of my life has been successful and wonderful.
Yeah.
But I never will want to stop being willing to talk about how grueling and demoralizing it was for, my whole adult life, basically, until now.
Wow. So did it take you by surprise? I mean, how quickly did this book take off?
Yeah, it really, the whole thing has really taken me by surprise. I was so mentally adjusted to failure and rejection. So then when it was purchased, I was sort of thought, surely not. Surely nobody.
Let me tell them they've done something wrong. They've made a mistake.
Yeah, it was pretty miraculous. It went out for sale in March of 2023 and it sold in June of 2023. And
great.
Those months when it wasn't getting any traction, I thought, okay, we've done it again. We've failed again, sort of thing. And then miracle of miracles, the week before my birthday, we get this call from Amy Einhorn, who's a wonderful editor with lots of history of great books. And she bought the book and she said, I love this book. I haven't cried reading a book in years, and I cried reading this book. And she said, I have to have it. I want it. I have to have it. And then ever since then, it's been sort of one amazing leap after another. I mean, it has sold really well all over the world. It has great endorsements from writers I really admire. And all that's such a kindness, authors, generosity of authors to authors is like really inspiring, just all of the fun. And now the sales are doing great and it's great. And just great. It's been the surprise of a lifetime, but it's the most fun. It's definitely the most fun.
I also love the Audible. I don't think I've listened to a book with so many different narrators, but you needed them because you have such a cast of characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really exciting. When they first got in touch to talk to me about how they were going to do the production, they said, we're going to give you a full cast. And I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. And the audiobooks have been selling really, really well.
They're
I think
great.
People that. Yeah.
Mr. Lubeck, his voice.
So gorgeous.
Is so gorgeous.
So gorgeous.
And Sybil's voice is great. I mean, they're all good, but yeah, I loved both. Wow. Okay. Do you ever get writer's block? And if so, what do you do?
I would say I get writer's block. I certainly feel like, now I'm going to say this with a caveat that I understand that what I do professionally is write made up stories. And so it's pretty luxurious to call that a job. I'm not like heading to the emergency room to stitch people back together.
But you definitely help people. I mean, I don't know what I wouldn't do if I couldn't read fiction.
Well, and I agree with that. So with that caveat said, I will say it's hard. Writing fiction is hard. It's a way of, for me, it's you take your brain and it's like you take it out of your skull and it's this silly putty and you're thinking, how far can I stretch this thing before it snaps? And how many times can I stretch it out to this thin string and then smash it back together and knead it and change the shape? That's how I feel mentally when I'm trying to write a novel. And, there's so many things smarter people than I have said, like Stephen King says, writing a novel is like crossing the ocean in a bathtub, rowing yourself across the ocean in a bathtub. And I think when you're in the middle, it's scary. You think, I can't do this. I can't do this again. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to write fiction. I don't know how stories work. I don't know what to do. And then, you just keep going back to it. I think there's so much to be said that you just have to keep showing up and, keep showing up. And I think if you show up and you sit down at your desk or on your bed or wherever it is, and
Yeah.
you say, I'm here, I'm doing my part. There was a TED talk Elizabeth Gilbert gave years ago about this, that she said she would show up to her desk and say, I'm here and I'm holding up my end of the bargain. So you, whatever you are, whatever creative energy or God or muse or whatever it is that has to meet me,
Yeah.
it has to meet me because I've done my part by showing up. And
That's
in
funny.
times I definitely despair sometimes when I'm writing a book and think, every time I've ever written a book, I have multiple times where I think, okay, this is garbage. I'll throw it. This needs to be thrown away. And I thought that with The Correspondent. So I'm kind
Wow.
of at that right now with the book I'm writing. And I think, oh, we should just burn it. But then, I'll keep going and we'll find
Do
our
you
way
have a
through.
favorite? Do you have a reader you share it with at all during these periods?
Yes. I don't share it with anyone in the very beginning, but when I finish the first draft, I sort of like the second draft, actually, I'll give it to my agent, who is a dear friend. She's a really good eye for story. And I'll give it to my best friend that I was in school with. She's Irish and her name is Erica, and she reads my stuff first. So both of them
Oh,
will read it and they'll come back to me and they'll say this, that, and the other. And then I will go from there.
oh, that's nice. So you said
Yeah.
you've already finished, you're in your second draft of your next project, next
That's right.
book? So
Yeah,
they've read
that's
it.
right. No, I give them the second draft.
Oh,
So
okay.
they get it. I'm hoping to be ready to give it to them before Christmas. That's my hope.
Oh, wow.
Exciting.
God, it's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. What? I don't know, but we're doing it.
I'm sure it'll be great.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
yeah. It was so original and it touched me. It really touched me. And it was very believable. And it was also very hopeful. That was one of the things I was going to ask you, is what you hope readers will take away when they finish this. So not your theme or your statement, but
That's a great question. I'm glad that you said it's hopeful or it inspires hope in you. And you said earlier, being where you are in your stage of life, kind of looking towards Sybil's stage of life and it giving you a sense of like eagerness or hope about what can be, that feels like the best I could ask, the best I could ask for. Um, I think I probably mostly hope for that and kind of in conjunction with that I think the story is about being human and, all that entails, which that entails receiving and being afflicted in pain and dishing out pain and having to deal with that and say you're sorry and go back and redeem, fix, ask for forgiveness. I think most of us do our best, but we also mess up and have to say, I'm sorry. I caused pain and I received pain. And I think the reason the book seems to be resonating from the conversations I've had is that people want to read that a real person can go through life and have pain and cause pain, but still at the end, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And even it's good, it's good at the end of the day. There was good and there was bad. I'll say my husband and I, when we got married, we're not Jewish, but we had a Jewish wine ceremony at our wedding, which the wine ceremony is that you have 3 cups and you drink from the cup of joy, and then you drink from the cup of sorrow, and you drink from the cup of unity last. So the ceremony, I'm saying yes to walking through our life together, and we're going to drink this joy. We're together. We will drink this joy, this cup of joy that we are dished out. And we will also drink our cup of sorrow, and we will also drink our cup of unity. And I think that kind of idea is what I hope this book kind of feels like, because it's both, it's both. It's all of it together. I just hope it makes people feel okay, feel good. Like it's okay, it's okay.
Oh, definitely. Because you've got so many characters who are good people or forgiving people.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what you want when you make a mistake. You want to be forgiven and you want to forgive yourself
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so. It was hopeful not only because her life looks like, wow, it's blossoming, but also about the goodness in people, even though they make mistakes.
Yes.
It's a mistake, and I think acknowledging it is acknowledging and then asking for forgiveness. It was great, really
Thank
good.
you.
So my last question is just an easy one. Favorite books that you have read in the last year or so? What are your favorite best reads that are going to be?
Yes. Okay. I'll start with, I just read early. It's not out yet, but I read Heart the Lover by Lily King, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. I've read she wrote Writers and Lovers, which was a book I really enjoyed. And then after I finished Heart the Lover, I started reading Euphoria, her book that was, and I'm loving that too. So I know I just said 3 in 1, but the one I'm saying is Heart the Lover is certainly one. And I'm speaking with her in person in the end of September. So I'll get to kind of pick her brain, which I'm excited about.
Is that going to be on, can people see it on Zoom?
I'm not sure if it might be. It's through, I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it's our local book festival, but it's very big and really well attended and has big authors come. And so they might put it on. Actually, we'll put it on YouTube. I'll put it on my.
Great.
They do.
Oh, good. Good.
Then a book I read in the spring when I was on holiday in Ireland. I like to read where I'm going. I read The Boy from the Sea. That's by Garrett Carr. He's an Irish writer. He teaches in Belfast. The Boy from the Sea is just a really phenomenal family, kind of long look at a family with kind of what we were talking about, the mess, the good and the bad, and it's the premise of the book is that this baby washes up on shore in a town in the north of the Republic of Ireland. And this town kind of takes this baby in, and this one family kind of raises the baby, and all of the fallout of things that happen.
Wow.
It's the most beautiful, absolutely gut-wrenching scenes of water, like ocean boat fisherman life, the description and the vividness of the fishing boat and all these things in this book. I mean, I'll never forget. I can't see it. It's just so beautiful. It's really beautiful. And then
can't believe he lived. This baby lives.
Yes, the baby lives. Wow. They sort of find the baby in this basket on the beach, and then you see what happens. And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. I can't recommend it highly enough. Okay. And then I guess the other book I'll recommend is a book that pertains to the book I'm writing. So I keep rereading it because it's part of my new book, is Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. I think it's Evelyn.
Oh, God. Yeah. Shoot.
It's a kind of takes place in the first half of the 20th century, kind of pertaining to the war, World War II, but not, or I think the First World War, actually. Am I finding the dates right? It has
First
World. I think it's like this place, and then he's the guy, Charles, who narrates the story, is fighting in World War II and looking back and telling the story of what had happened. But it's sort of like a tragic love story. And I just keep rereading it. And I want to just put the plug in that Jeremy Irons reads the book for audio, and it is exquisite listening experience.
Thank you. And you mentioned this is somehow to do with the book, your project right now.
Yes, it has to do with the book I'm writing right now. So,
can you tell us how?
Well,
or is that giving it away? Is that bad luck?
I'm writing a book that pertains to the making of a movie, and it's related to this book. So, what I'll say.
Okay.
Sorry,
very, very different. Not the making of a letter.
No.
The making of a movie.
I will never write in letters again. That is a closed door.
Oh, God. Okay. And what time period?
What'd you say?
What time period does your current one? Oh, you're going modern.
Yeah, going modern again. And then I think after this one, I might go back in time and do something without cell phones.
Okay. Well, thank you, Virginia. This was really great.
So great.
I
for
knew
me.
I knew it would because I've watched some of your other interviews. So I was like, oh, she's really good. But you didn't let me down. So thank you very
Well,
much.
it was an honor to be asked. Really nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you for joining me. I love The Correspondent. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I wasn't sure I was going to, despite its rave reviews. But when I got to page 7, and Sybil was writing Anne Patchett, who she had never met, to tell Anne how much she loved State of Wonder, and inviting Anne to come and stay, I thought, who is this woman? I just love Sybil and all the other characters in this novel. I also love chatting with Virginia, hearing how the voice of Sybil just came to her, and hearing about her own wedding ceremony, drinking to joy and sorrow and unity. That is the stuff of life. Well, that's it for today. Thank you and see you in 2 weeks.